Hey guys, Gerardo here with G-Rod Grills. Today we're going to be doing some pork back ribs. We're going to be prepping these today for 3-2-1 on a Pit Boss 820 FB smoker. And I'm going to show you just how I prep my ribs. Today we're going to be doing two different flavors, both of them by Meat Church. One of them is going to be a honey hog barbecue rub, and the other one is going to be the honey hog barbecue hot version of it. So the same rub, just one's got a little more kick. On top of it, I'm also going to be layering in the gospel. This is a really great all-purpose rub, and it's going to go really well with these sweeter rubs, and you'll see how this all turns out. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here is I've got two racks of back ribs. You can see here, just your standard cryovac ribs that you can get at your superstore or your supermarket. What we're going to do is we're going to remove the membrane in the back. This kind of becomes kind of papery and rubbery when you cook. So we don't want that. Nobody wants to eat that. So we're going to remove that, and then we're going to season it, and I'll show you how that's done here. So there's a couple different methods you can find. I'm sure if you Google around or you YouTube enough, you'll find some that use a knife or a spoon to kind of wedge inside here and remove the membrane. I saw this Diva Q do this once, and it's actually super easy to do. If you take your ribs and kind of just give them a little bit of a fold this way, not sure if you can see, but the membrane kind of shows itself here, so you can kind of get your finger in there, get your finger right across inside, and once you're all the way through, you can just pull. You see how easy that kind of becomes to pull out. You might not get it all at first, but it's pretty much all gone there. You can use a paper towel to kind of give you a little bit more grip to pull off the little pieces at the end. But yeah, I mean, it's super simple. You saw that. I wasn't messing around with a knife. These kind of little cuts were already there when I pulled them out of the package. We're going to do it again on this one. And again, just kind of fold it across, give it a little bit of a squeeze, and you kind of start seeing the membrane pull up on the side. So you can just find that spot. I'll just use a little bit of this paper towel to kind of wedge myself in there. And once you've got it, you can, here you go. You can pull it all up, and you see it just comes right off. Now your butcher can pull this off for you as well if you buy your ribs from a butcher. Most folks are buying from the supermarket, and that's fine. Most butchers, though, when you buy them, this will be removed, or it'll be kind of cut across, so that kind of remove that papery feel. That's fine too. Just make sure if you're bought from a butcher and your butcher hasn't removed it, that you do it yourself. And it's like I said, it's super simple to do. You can use the method that I just used, or using a knife works just fine. You just want to find the spot underneath the membrane, pull it in, pull it out. Definitely want some paper towels. That'll help you out. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of a binder on here. So I'm going to flip it over. We're going to start on this side of the ribs, and my binder is going to be yellow mustard. You can use hot sauce. You can use whatever you like, really. Just anything that kind of gets them wet a little bit. And I'm just going to take this one off so it's a little easier. And just want to put a little bit on, rub it across, just to give that rub somewhere to stick onto. Okay, so once you've kind of rubbed it across, you don't need a lot. Once upon a time, I did see somewhere that the acidity from mustard helps break down the fibers. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've been doing it ever since, and my ribs always turn out pretty good. So I've got to say, maybe there's something to it. Now we're going to start off by layering the flavors here. So I'm using the Gospel by Meat Church. This is, like I said, this is an all-purpose rub, and it's going to be the base of the flavor here. So just going to liberally, you don't have to go too heavy on this bottom side. It's really not where the flavor is going to be. You or your guests are going to really just enjoy the meat side. But I like to put it on there as well, because when you bite into a rib, you always get a little bit of that bottom. So your bottom palate's going to get a little bit of that flavor as well. So after you've got that first layer on, I'm going to do this one in hot. So again, I'm going to do it a little. I'm going to go a little heavier on the hot version of it. just because, again, on this bottom one, when you bite in, this is kind of what sits at the bottom of your palate when you're eating, and I don't know, I liked a little bit of a kick there. So you do however much spice or little spice as you prefer. Use your favorite rubs if you like. If you've got your own homemade one, go ahead and use that. It all works the same. There you go. So once we've got that one, then we're just going to flip her over and just rinse and repeat, guys. We're going to do a little bit of mustard, rub that in. Once we've got it there, some gospel. And you can buy these. I got these rubs from Dixon's Barbecue Center here in Canada. Not sure wherever you're from. I'm sure you can buy them at your local barbecue shop. They're really good. They're not that expensive. And let me tell you, you won't regret buying them. And we're going to go back to the hot. Now once we're done seasoning both racks here, we're gonna wrap them up and throw them in the fridge overnight, at minimum overnight. So, and what that will help is it'll help get the flavors kind of sinking into the rib itself. You'll taste that and you'll see that later on in the cook. It makes a difference letting it do overnight. You can do it a couple hours ahead of time. The one thing you'll want to do though is make sure you let your ribs sweat. So what I mean by that is that once you've put the rub on, you gotta let it sit, and it could be cooled, or it should be cooled actually, I should say, not at room temperature or anything. You wanna make sure that you let it sit in the fridge for at least, I would say maybe 45 minutes to an hour, so that to let those flavors sink in, and you'll see kind of the salt in the rub, and the sugars kind of start to melt in. And that's what I mean by sweating. It looks like the meat is sweating. So you'll want to do that because smoke likes wet. So when you put this in your smoker, the smoke is going to adhere nicely to it, and you're going to get all that nice smoke flavor. So I'm just gonna finish this up on this end here. And then I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna wrap them up and throw them in the cooler overnight. We're gonna be doing a 3-2-1 method, which means it's gonna spend the first 3 hours of its cook life in a low temperature. For me, it's gonna be sitting in smoke setting on my Pit Boss 820. We're gonna sit it in smoke, and that's gonna be anywhere from 180 to 200 degrees. It's a little bit cooler outside, so maybe it sits a little bit cooler than that, but that's okay. We're gonna do 3 hours at that setting. Then we're gonna bump her up to 225 to 250, and then I'm gonna wrap it up in some brown sugar, some honey, and some butter, and we'll throw it back into the Pit Boss to do a little bit kind of like a braise. And once that's finished, the final hour, it'll be unwrapped to kind of firm up the sauce, and that's when we'll sauce. But you'll see that as we go along. I'm going to finish these up, wrap them up, and then throw them in the cooler. Here's what I mean about letting the meat sweat a little bit. It's only been about maybe 5 minutes or so since I finished rubbing these. And it's already kind of starting to sweat. So you can kind of see it looks a little like it's glistening. The meat looks to be kind of like it's sweating on its own, and that's just the sugars kind of melting in, and the salt's pulling out the moisture from inside the rib itself. But it's not going to dry them out or anything. It's just going to add the flavor. And like I said, we're going to wrap these, throw them back in a cooler, and then tomorrow I'm going to let them sweat again just before I put them in the smoker, and they're going to turn out just perfect. Alright, so here we are. The ribs sat in the fridge overnight with the seasoning. One of them is, like we talked about, was the Honey Hog Hot and the Honey Hog Barbecue. by Meat Church. You can see I've let them, it's only been out of the fridge for maybe 5 minutes or so. They're so obviously they're still cold. I'm not going to let them get the room temperature. I'm going to put them in cold. You can see they're sweating again. I put another layer of the rub on it just to kind of give it a little more flavor. But you can see they've sweated. They look like they've been sweating. I've set the pit boss to 225, and it's currently sitting at 245, so just a little bit hotter. It's going to get a little bit hotter, so it is chilly-ish outside. It's about 3 degrees Celsius, so that's okay. We're going to leave it on here. I was going to use the smoke function, but I think this will be fine because it'll keep the temperatures down on its own. So I'm going to put this up here, put them in. Here we go. So these are on there. Pretty large racks, so they're both almost the width of my entire smoker here, but just fine. Like I said, we're gonna let these roll at 225 in the pit boss. They'll run in here for the next 3 hours. I'll be spritzing periodically with apple juice only, and we're gonna wrap after the 3-hour mark. We'll wrap them in some heavy duty foil with some other stuff, but I'll show you when we get to that. Alright, so we're about an hour in. We're going to be spritzing with some apple juice here. Let's have a look to see what they're doing. Color's nice. You can see color sitting in nicely. It's smoking. I'm just going to go ahead and spritz. And just do it enough to get them a little moist so they don't dry out on you. Probably should have taken that top rack off, but I didn't. That's it. That's all they need. That's all we need now, and then in about a half an hour I'll come back and do it again. Here we go again. We're about half an hour past the last spritz. We're going to spritz one more time. Again, so see they're no longer wet anymore, so we're just going to keep them moist the entire time here. Oh, fix my spritz rubber here. There we go. Just want to give them another little one here. Color's looking great, and that's a lot of that is the rub working out here. You can see it's starting to pull back a little bit, which is perfect. You see the bones are starting to pull back. See them? This is what you want. These are gonna be yummy. Just one thing here, I'm spritzing with only apple juice. You can mix that with apple cider if you want, or you can use some cola to give it a little bit more color, and that'll help as well. I just do apple juice. Also, I'm using Pit Boss. I need to fill up here. There was some competition blend in there, so we see some of that, but I'm also using the Pit Boss charcoal pellets. Not getting a whole lot of charcoal flavor out of it, but it's going to give a little bit, and I'm going to be doing some other things on here as well that I want that flavor for. So that's where they're in there. I'm going to top up that hopper, and we're going to keep this rolling. So we're at about an hour and a half into the first stage of the 3-2-1. We are going to come back in about half an hour, spit some more, and then in a half an hour after that, and then we're going to wrap. So I'll spare you the spritzing, but we'll see you again at wrap time. All right, so it's been 3 hours in the smoker. Here we go. We're gonna be setting these guys up meat side down onto some brown sugar, honey, and butter. And then we're gonna wrap them up and put a little bit of apple juice in it. And that'll help braise the ribs and for the next part of the cook. So that'll be another 2 hours at the same temperature back in the smoker to go. The smoke will stop at that point because it'll be wrapped, but that'll help the ribs get nice and tender. So let's just do that. Here we go. It's in the pouch now. You can see the brown sugar and the butter and all that's underneath. Just gonna add a little bit of that apple juice. Don't really know how much, about a quarter of a cup, I guess I would say. You can add to this, and that's just gonna help it get braised and tenderized while it's cooking. We're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna do the same to the other one, throw them back into the smoker, like I said, for another 2 more hours, and then we'll unwrap, sauce and put back in for another hour, and that'll finish off our 3-2-1 ribs. All right, so these just came off the smoker here. They were in there for the last 2 hours. You can see the color is coming along nicely. We're gonna, they've now been unwrapped. They were wrapped for the last couple of hours there with some apple juice and brown sugar, honey, and butter. So now we're gonna sauce them and throw them back onto the smoker for the next half an hour to 45 minutes. And that will just be to firm up the barbecue sauce. You can see the pullback on the bones. It's all the way back now. So they're already cooked. We don't need to cook them any longer. It's just to firm up the sauce and firm up the ribs a little bit from here on, and then we're going to eat. Okay, so we're just going to sauce. I'm going to be using the Traeger Texas Spicy to start off on the ribs. And then we're going to glaze with some of Cosmo's rib glaze. This is the peach jalapeno one, and it's pretty good. You don't ever taste the heat on them. Both of them are not very spicy, so they'll go well together.
So you're going to want to apply the barbecue sauce liberally all the way across and brush it on evenly. You can apply as much or as little barbecue sauce as you want, depending on how saucy you want it. I did a little bit heavier on the Texas spicy sauce here, and then apply the rib glaze on top, just the way I like to finish my ribs. Alright, so here are the ribs finished up here. These went back onto the smoker for another 35 to 40 minutes, 250. And you can see that the sauce is firmed up nicely, not overly saucy. We got an awesome smoke ring all the way around. The color on them is just fantastic. That rich red mahogany color, it's exactly what you want out of a rib. Just a perfect little bite, and still not really falling off the bone or anything like that, but just exactly how you want your ribs. If you like what you saw here, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. There's lots of other yummy recipes on there for you to have a look at, and we'll have more coming in the next coming weeks. You can also find me on Instagram at GrodGrills. And remember, if you can do it in your oven, you can do it on your barbecue, so get out there and grill.
Yeah, you don't say the one.
I know, you don't say the one from Wayne's World. I just made that joke. Okay, ready. Look at me. Look at me. In 3.
Did Alex just leave because he doesn't want to be a part of this? Oh, makes sense.
From that.
Okay, yes you can.
My mom thought she got sick from it. She's never faked.
Makes sense.
Okay, Alex.